the demo on the Codebeamer application. And just to give a little bit of a concept, typically, you gather the requirement, you understand your processes, and you create a product backlog. And then based on the backlog, like backlog is like a list of all the possible requirements, the features which you need in the product. And then you can further segregate them like based on what is MVP, that is what is minimal viable, and what are like, good to have. And then, then you can slot them into different releases or different sprints. So what you see here is this, that they are like 6 sprints for the first release. And then you can have further release, and all these releases will create product increment and eventually will lead to the final product which you want to develop. And this is what we'll see, like how do you build this? How do you execute in this manner in Codebeamer? Now, again, some terminology and some data model flow here. Let me just draw a line to explain this much better. Therefore, if I draw a line here, what you see on the left hand side is more about creating a requirement, like what you want to do. Okay, what is the need? And then finally, for each requirement, you create user stories, and this becomes a product backlog. And for the estimation of the user story, you use story points, and then it leads to what is the estimation to develop this whole product features. And for this user stories, you create tasks, and this task you assign it to the users. That is, we call it as here as team, but within the team they are users, and you assign it to the users. On the right hand side is more from execution perspective. See, eventually what do we want? We want this whole product to be developed. So therefore this product, and it's typically phase wise. So therefore, in order to develop this product, you can plan multiple releases, like 1 to n number of releases, and for each release you can have sprints, and under each sprints you assign tasks which is linked to back to the user stories. So you assign these tasks in sprints, or you plan this user stories in particular sprints, and people are assigned to the task. So that's how the work happens. Once we see live in the system, it's much easier to conceptualize this. To better conceptualize this, I have also taken one example. Like, suppose you are doing ECU development or any software development work. You may typically also have a hybrid model. That is, the first 2 phase we would like to do it in a waterfall model. And the second 2 phase, we like to do it in a Scrum model, and that's what we'll try to do here, so that it's very clearly visible what can be done. With this, I go back to the system and then show you, like if I go back to any of this project, therefore let me just pick any project. Suppose if I pick this itself, or let us anything which is small. Let me see if there's any data here. Yeah, there are some data here, or let me just go to the. I picked this. This is based on an automotive template, but it doesn't matter. I just wanted to show you that there is some data here, so that it's easy for me to randomly pick some requirements and demonstrate this release plan. Therefore, what you do is, from the execution perspective, suppose if I want to execute this, and this is my release 1, that is from here to here is my release 1. And for this, I want to create a plan. Okay, therefore I go here, and just like any other trackers for the requirement, you also have a tracker for release. Therefore I go here, that is a release tracker. There's already one release. Let me just create another release for demo purpose. Therefore I create release 2 and release 2, and then I just put in a bracket demo so that it's easy to differentiate, and no date and nothing. And I say that the release methodology which will follow is a Scrum-based development. This is done. Now, while I'm in the release tracker, just to explain this UI layout, when you are in a release, you always see this release Gantt chart. That means when I'm building the plan, I will also see the Gantt chart accordingly as per the plan which I'm developing. On the top, you see the 3 menu here. One is for the planning purpose. That is typically like, the timeline planning. The second is on the Kanban board, and the third is the dashboard. So right now what you're seeing is the dashboard. Therefore, if I just click it, it's the same view, you're seeing the dashboard. Apart from it, like, for each of this release, you also see some icons here. It's the 2 are common, that is, the planner and the Kanban. But apart from it, you also have two more things. There is traceability browser and the requirements, coverage requirement. This is to make sure that all your product backlogs are covered, and that is why the coverage requirements is also provided here. Now for release 2, I will start planning it. If I go to the planner and I go ahead and create when I'm in the release 2. Okay, let me just explain this UI. The first is more on the sprints and the timeline, which I am right now seeing. The second is the teams, which is this second one, which is here. And the third is the team members, which you define, who will be part of which team. And then it's just the relationships which are connected to what. Now, release 2, this is what I'm planning now. Therefore, I go here and create phases. The first phase is requirements gathering and analysis. Gathering and analysis. Okay. And description is not mandatory, but I'm just copying and pasting. And also let us give the start date. Suppose I give this and then just put some dates. Okay, very quickly. I just put one day, but you can put the proper ones. And then I create the next one. Next is solution definition. Solution definition. And then again, I give the dates and then I take 6, 7, 8, and 9 here. I just put one more day further and then click save. And then I go ahead and create implementation. And the sprint as implementation. I will skip the testing, but typically, implementation and testing will be on CI/CD. And I give here 10 to 14. Sorry, 10 start and probably 14 as end, and save. Now, within implementation, you actually would like to run sprints. Therefore, I create here 2 sprints. I create a sprint 1 and sprint 2. Now, when you define sprints, you can also define based on the sprint's length, and it can equally divide like all sprints 2 weeks, and then you can cover up like that as well. But since I'm randomly selecting some dates, I just want to little bit be correct here, and I'm just setting using the dates, but you can also use the sprint length to define the sprints. I create a sprint 1, and then again under implementation phase, I create another sprint as sprint 2. With this sprint, 2 sprints, I finish my work and I have done the planning now. Basically, I just created the timeline planning, like what you see here. I just created what will happen from how the timeline will look from here to here. But more importantly, what will happen in each phases. That is very important. Okay, now since it's waterfall, ideally speaking, I should not be picking from product catalog and assigning like this. But just for the demo purpose, or like like when you do this, what you do is that you have the requirements, you convert this, you create user stories for this requirements, or in some cases you directly assign requirements, but you also create user stories, and then for user stories you create tasks, and you assign tasks and the user stories to sprints, and task is also assigned to people who have to do the job. So therefore, this is what we'll try to understand and demonstrate so that when you are doing in a practical way, you will know what you're doing here. Okay. Now, if I go here on the top, if you see here, there are some filters. I'm just removing this filter so that it doesn't. I see all the backlog here. Therefore, what I'm doing here is this, that in the project, this is the project. I'm saying show me all the tracker and along with the work items. So it shows me these are the work items which are defined in this project. Now with this, I can just drag drop and I can say, okay, this has to be done in this. This has to be done in this. But to make it much simpler, let me just create a filter and filter on something like, suppose filter on hardware requirement spec, so that we have a small list. Okay, 4 items. Therefore, with these 4 items, also you can actually assign this. Let me assign this. I'll assign this one of them to requirement, and one more to solution definition. Okay, And I can do like this for others, but the whole logic is like this. What you see here is a product backlog, and from where it is coming from the work items which are defined in this project. That is under the trackers, the typical V model, right? You have system requirements, you have software requirements, all that you see it here. And since I have done a filter, I'm seeing only the hardware requirement spec. Now, when I click this release now, I will, if I click here requirement gathering, I will see here there's one requirement gathering here and there's one in solution definition. OK, now this is how you assign things. OK, but apart from it, what you do is you actually create a task for each one of them, user stories or tasks. Now, how do you do it? You can just click here and say create a downstream reference, and you can also create a task. Therefore, let me create a task for this, and I just call it as a task one in the interest of the time. And then I just say a task one. It says it is assigned to me. I just leave it, but I'll also show you like a better way to do this. But just leave it as it is now, just to show that there's a task which is created and it's created on my name. And then I also go here and I can also create a tasks here. Okay, and say downstream and say task and say here task 2. And again, copy and paste here. Again, it is assigned to me here. There's no story point. I can also give a story point. Suppose for this, let me give 20. And the previous one, if I go back here or go to this requirement. Now I'm not seeing the task here, even though I've created, because there's a filter which says only show hardware requirement spec. So what I can do is I can just click here and say show me tasks as well. And then it will show me the task as well, and then hit go. And you can save this view so that it's easy. Therefore, it shows there's a task 1, it is assigned to Amit, it is assigned to Amit. If I go here, it will show me there's a task 2, it is assigned to Amit. Now, if I go, and this is story point 20, therefore you can actually define it at HRS level. So now it shows that 40, but actually it should be done at task level. You define here like 40, and then define 2 tasks, and you can say 10, 10, and so on. But this all I leave it to you, like how do you do in your project. But this is where you define the story points. And when I go here, I can also define here the story point, and I can say here, suppose 10. Okay, now since I did it here, therefore I'll also put it here. Otherwise, it's not required like this. But now I have, a 10 story point here. Therefore, it's showing me wrong here. It's showing me 20, but actually I have only 10. Let me just correct it. Therefore, I just remove this. It's 10 here. When I go to solution definition, it is 20. Okay, and there's one task which is 20 story point. And what you see here is this is a roll up. So suppose if I have got 20 tasks here, you will see the roll up of all 20, and in this small here stuff, it shows you what is the story point for this particular phase. I just did it only for 2 phase to keep it very simple. Now, what is team? Now, what happens is like right now when I create this task and when I create this requirement, it was assigned to me. But typically what to do is you create a team and you assign a team here, and then from that team you assign the user who has to work. Like for example, I have 2 teams. Like how do you create a team? You go to the tracker and there's a concept known as team. There's a tracker known as team. So if I go to teams, it's quite simple that you click here, create a new team, give a name and assign the people here. As simple as this. So suppose I can create here release 3 and say release 3 team. Okay, and then I can say here Srini or me or whoever is the part of this project team, and then just say save. Okay, so we created a team. The team name is Rel team 3, and then there are 2 people in this team. So that is how you create a team. Therefore, we already have a team. Therefore, if I go back to again release, go back to the release. I was in release 2 demo. I go here and then I expand this, and then I can see here there are 3 phases under the implementation. There's sprint 1 and sprint 2 as well. Now under this, I was in the planner phase. If I go back to the planning, so now if I go to this requirement, I can always go here and click here teams, and then I can select these teams from here, or I can also say the rel 3 team, which I just now created 3 team, and I can select this team and assign it to myself. So therefore, we can do this. And as and when you add the team assignment here, if I go scroll here below, you will also see that team being added here. And suppose in this case, when I add here rel3 team, which I just now created, what happens is when I add it here and when I go down here, it will also add the story point. That means, in this team, in this team, in this phase, that is requirement gathering, which you see here on the top. There's one task which is assigned to rel3 team, and in the rel3 team, it's assigned to me. And the story point is 10. It shows here that there are two tasks and the total story point is 10 because I'm not considering I'm just doing it at task level for the sake of the demo, but it depends upon how you want to do this and how you want to do the estimations. Now, and this shows me the two teams, the team here, and it also shows that there is two more, which is 20 story points, but there's no team defined for that. What is that? That is this solution definition. I have not defined any team here. That's why it's showing with this. In nutshell, what I want to show is that if I go back to this diagram, what we did is for this product, okay, we have releases. We created a release 2 demo. There was already release 1. We created another thing, was release 2 demo. For this release 2 demo, we created 3 phases: requirement gathering, solution definition, and implementation. And within implementation, we created 2 sprints. Now, this is from the execution perspective, from planning perspective. But on the other hand, we already have a lot of requirements. We did not create these user stories, but you can select the requirements and create user stories for that. Instead, what we did is we selected the requirement and we created tasks for it. And then we assigned this task to a team member. Okay, and so on. That's all. And then this task and the requirement was also assigned to the sprint or the phase in which we want to work. So that is what we did now. Okay. So this is how it has been done. And now if I can go back and click this release, I go in this upper level view and I click this release 2. There's something known as release Gantt chart. I can click this Gantt chart and then you can see this the timeline view of it. So therefore, what happens is, as I said, there are 3 views here: planning and dashboard. What we covered is mostly the dashboard. If I go here, you see this is a dashboard picture where you see the Gantt chart and whether you see this high level release. If you expand this, you see the subphases. And it also, since it's a dashboard, it also will show you like how many items are there. Like in requirement gathering, we have 2 items. In solution definition, we have 2 items. It also shows, what is the story point committed here. There's 20 story points, and this is for 10 story points. Is there anything done? Answer is 0, 0, 0. Okay, so this is dashboard. Planner view, we have done this. Like, this is the place where you look at the backlog. Like this is the release 2 backlog. This is the product backlog overall. If you click the product backlog, like you will see the 1 minute. If I click this, okay, because I have this tracker here on. Therefore, when I click this, I see only the hardware spec. But if I remove this, I'll see the complete product backlog here. But otherwise, you just have 4 of them, right? And when I click this release 2, there's nothing but product backlogs here. Okay. Now this is for planner view, and then comes the Kanban view. So what does Kanban view means is, like if I go to Kanban view, Kanban board. In Kanban board, you see what is to do, in progress, to verify, and done. Now I have 2 tasks, okay, which was created. Okay, and these tasks was created for, like, one for one of the HRS in requirement gathering, the other was for solution design. Suppose I complete this. The first one was for requirement gathering. I just drag and drop and say it is complete. That means I have completed this work. So now if I go to the planner, which was like 10 story points, I guess. If I go to this requirement gathering, the task is complete. And the key part is this, that the task is done. Basically, it's not shown in my this one, but the task is complete. And if I go to the dashboard, in this one, the last one, the dashboard, here, if I expand this, it will show me that there are 2 items. Actually, what happens is when I have the task completed, my HRS should also complete, my hardware requirement should also complete. I should mark both as complete, and then this becomes 100%. For example, if I go again to the Kanban, This was the one which says that requirement gathering thing. I also mark this as complete because I have completed a task, and obviously this is also done. Now, if I go to the dashboard, I will and expand my release 2 and look at requirement gathering. It will say that you had 2 work items, the 10 story points committed, and both are done because I did my task and also mark this as complete. So therefore, both are complete, and it is shows me all green. But at a release 2 level, okay, if I look at here, it is only 13%. It just does the calculation based on the story point and the number of items and so on. But this is how you see the roll up and the status of the project. If I go to solution definition 2, it will show me what are the work items here, but all are 0 because I have not done anything. If I drag and drop a task, again, this will become green. Like for example, again, I go to Kanban and suppose I say that, okay, I have also completed the task 2, and it's as simple as this, like just drag and drop, or you can, yeah, drag and drop and say done. And you can also mark this as done. And then when I go to the dashboard again, and then I again expand the release 2, it says all done. It says everything is done. And yeah, it says that 30 story point was committed, 4 items are there, and all are done. In nutshell, what I want to say is that this is the planner view where you do the whole planning of a project. You see your product backlog, and then you drag and drop to different sprints and so on, okay, or different phases and so on. The next is the Kanban where you say what is done, means you actually have to do in progress to verify and done, and you drag and drop and you complete your work, and this determines the overall project status. And the last is the dashboard. Now, a quick update on Kanban. I'm not going to cover today, but in the subsequent demo, you can see this. You can configure this Kanban. Therefore, it's not that you always need to see this. Therefore, since I am the admin, I have this rights. Therefore, I just want to show you this. When you go and try to configure, you can change all these labels which you see on the top, and you can also decide what it means, like what all trackers can go in each of these phases. You can also decide the number of work items, like what is the minimum and maximum based on the capacity of your team. Therefore, this all can be configured. For today's demo, I just used out of the box, and this is what we did. That's all I wanted to cover in today's demo, and just to show how to do the planning. Thanks. Bye.